I'm now joined by our Paris correspondent, Peter Humi. Peter, President Hamid Karzai is asking for $50 billion in aid. How can the countries involved, over 80 of them, we understand, be confident that this will help the country, especially with corruption, poppy production, and violence, still problems that Karzai has not solved? And let's not forget, he has received aid in the past to fight these problems.
Well, Mehrdad, that's absolutely right. The question is not so much raising money. I mean, in the course of the morning at the conference, here in central Paris, we've heard all sorts of pledges from various countries and financial institutions pledging considerable sums of money. The problem is what is going to happen to that money once it gets to Afghanistan. And Hamid Karzai himself said, as he outlined what he intends to be a 5-year national development plan, that there will be more accountability for the money, and that if he does raise the $50 billion, which seems unlikely at this moment, but that the Afghani authorities will have to take their responsibilities on board and make sure the money is put to the purpose for which it is intended. And we heard similar comments from various delegates here, mainly in the form of foreign ministers that have been attending the conference so far, saying pretty much the same thing. It's all very well to pour hundreds of millions of dollars into Afghanistan, but what's going to happen to it? As you mentioned, there's widespread corruption. There's huge problems with the infrastructure. Money's been donated to Afghanistan over the past few years. There was a similar fundraising conference in London just in 2006. And the question is to make the money serve the purpose of the donation.
That's right. Peter, Iran's Foreign Minister Menachem Mottaki is also in Paris. He said that Tehran has offered very important proposals in its peaceful nuclear case in a lengthy press conference there yesterday. What more can you tell us?
Well, that's right. We covered that press conference, of course, yesterday, and I think you ran a report just earlier in the show. He is here attending the Afghan donors conference. Alphabetically, Iran is a little way down the list, so they've broken for lunch now, all the various delegates, and we do expect to hear from him later in the afternoon. Indeed, it'll be interesting to hear from all the various regional powers, not just Iran, of course, but on the other side of the Afghan border, Pakistan. There's been some calls here for Pakistan to play a more important role in ensuring the future stability of Afghanistan. We heard that, in fact, from French President Nicolas Sarkozy in the opening remarks to the conference this morning.
Peter, a recent report by the World Bank has been critical of the failure of donors to build the capacity of the Afghan government to manage its own affairs. The report says a large part of development spending goes straight back to donor countries and the pockets of consultants. And Afghans complain that they see little of the donated funds. Is the complaint expected to be brought up at the meeting?
Well, I think this is something that will certainly be discussed, if not during the meeting itself, then there will be a news conference towards the end of the day after this conference ends. Certainly that is an issue that affects all donations, not just for Afghanistan, but NGO, charities, all the various funds that have been raised over the decades. The question is, well, we've raised so much money, how much of it is actually going into the places and to the people that really need it? I think the case of the Afghanistan funds, though, is really one of the Afghan authorities clamping down on the corruption and really seizing control of the country. Not made any easier, of course, by the fact that for more than 25 years now, Afghanistan has been in one sort of conflict or another. There's more than 60,000 international troops based there. The Taliban insurgents are proving to be a very tough obstacle to overcome in the south of the country. So on top of just the problems with the infrastructure and dealing with a very poor nation, you've also got this ongoing conflict. It's going to be interesting to see just how this all pans out.
Right. And finally, and very quickly, Peter, yesterday, U.S. airstrike killed 11 Pakistani troops near the Afghan border. Has the strike and Pakistan's strong worded reaction had any impact on the Paris meeting?
No, that's not something they're openly discussing here in terms of their speeches and all the various pledges, of course. It will be interesting to hear what the Pakistani representative, the minister, will have to say, but I think it's unlikely to surface, at least publicly, at this stage of the day. There may be a mention of it at the press conference later, but I think today's meeting is purely about aid for Afghanistan, and they'll be talking money, money, money.
Peter Humi, our Paris correspondent, many thanks there.